Welcome in, and look who is joining the party on a brand new Village Vice. That's Zach Blackerby over there, and that is Auburn baseball coach Butch Thompson. Coach, we are so pleased that you're joining us here for the 99th episode ever of Village Vice. Thank you very much.
It's a one-hit wonder, isn't it? 99 Luff balloons or something. All right, well, special for me to be with you.
Yeah. We're so close to 100, Coach. Just quick question: do you remember your 100th win by chance?
No, I don't.
No, okay, just curious.
Absolutely not.
I think Brad looked it up.
I'm going to remind you. Yeah, your 100th win at Auburn was over Northeastern in the 2018 regional in Raleigh.
Okay. Absolutely,
that was a good year. Yeah,
that was a special one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this season has started, and we're going to mix a little bit of kind of serious and have a little fun as well. The routine of the season. What is this like for the head coach? Like we know it's important for the players to be in a routine, workout, focus, practice, games, that kind of thing. What about the head coach? Is there a comfort that comes with the routine of starting the season? What's that routine like for you?
Yeah, I think you've heard me say we're in the past, I'd say, hey, practice is for the coaches and the games for the players. And I think so much work is done from August to the break. And then, you're really trusting the players as they leave you for like 50 days. And then it's back of a combination of practice in January. And, I went out and I probably did 11 sessions at different clinics around, just trying to promote our program, all the different things that all coaches have to do, or other sports and et cetera. And sometimes when the season starts, for me personally, it's like if you feel like you better have done your work at that point. And we felt great most years that if you give an honest effort, that going into the season now, and if the players did enough of what you ask, that it's their game. And I think that's the way it works best. And this team was no different. And maybe one of the best that we've had is feeling like you get to game one and it's like, okay, you guys have given us good effort. We needed to make sure that whatever we thought was important had gotten put in. And I think it runs the best now if you let the players kind of go out there and do their thing. So for a coach, once the season starts, it's this season, the schedule just pulls you along now. And the regret would be if you didn't do a good job in preparation, because sometimes once that season starts and the game starts being played, it's too late. And if you ever feel that way, it's not a good feeling as a coach. And number two is you better make a note and never let it happen again, as you have to do all this stuff. So much of our work is done before the season, believe it or not.
Sure. Coach, I mean, you mentioned some of these players, and one of the players is off to a great start this season, Cooper White. I think while you're answering that question, he actually stole another base, because it seems like that's what he's doing every time he gets on, is he's stealing bases. What have you seen from him, and what is it about him that's allowing him to kind of set all these records for Auburn when it comes to stealing bases?
Well, I think he's a spark plug, number one. I think he loves to play. I think it's been a point of emphasis. I think Gross and Nunemaker absolutely committed to understanding the personnel of this club had some pieces where they thought they could run the bases more than maybe we have in the past. So there was a point of emphasis. And I think to my prior long answer, this started, in the fall, of really focusing, thinking that this team would steal more bases or have the talent level and ability to steal more bases than last year. So I think that's the second piece. And number three is Weiss is fearless. So I think he's a spark plug. I think we prepared and made a point of emphasis, and he's absolutely fearless when he gets out there. And I'm like, I see him vaulting and gaining inches, and I'm like, hey, man, you're about to get picked off. And some of that's going to come, and it's but there's a fearless aspect that I think has allowed him to be so good at it. And it's just a desire of his, and it's a great way that he feels like maybe his best way right now to get his team going.
It's a perfect representation of this show. I ask a 5,000-foot view question, and then Zach brings it in and asks about a specific player. That's kind of how we work. So I'm going to ask another big picture type question. You said something on the radio post-game interview after the game Tuesday I thought was interesting for people that didn't hear it. These guys who want to play in the major leagues, it's 162 games, and so 56 ought to be like, cupcake for them. I get the sense that you are really pushing this team I don't know if maybe more than in other years at this time, or if this is a consistent. Can you talk about that a little bit? Is this a thing with every team you do kind of you push them a little extra early on in the year?
Well, I don't think there. Anytime you feel like human nature would make you want to make an excuse, I think a coach's opportunity is to go like, we don't make excuses. We don't do tired. If you do tired, then you can't finish the season strong. If you do cold, then you're giving away the first month. If they ever start talking about the ability to bounce back, just remember now our game, and in most games, if you're trying to play at an elite level, it's more mental than it is physical. Remember how young they are. So how I feel is not really how they feel, but they'll try to, and we're all human, so we'll play that game. And then, I always thought Major League Baseball was just simply a great example of, like, whenever I hear any kind of, we got to get up that bus ride 6 hours, it's good. And so would anybody that's my age and that are friends of mine. It's like, man, they would absolutely get after those guys. Like, yeah. Oh, you want to be a big leaguer and you think you can play 162 games and you can't navigate through 56, 4 games a week when those guys were playing 6 and 7 games a week. I mean, come on now. So just keeping on top of their mind and not allowing weakness to enter. And there is a time, like Monday was a lighter practice. We swung the bats and we had meetings. We didn't run them around the bases or take anything outside of their legs. So there's a trust of, like, hey, can you trust us to keep putting your body in the best shape for when we compete again? But also their mind. Can I give them reality checks along the way that are positive and that are helpful, as opposed to allowing them go down a road of weakness when they shouldn't?
Yeah. Coach, my family's been season ticket holders for your program for a few years now. And every year we go, it seems like the interest and support throughout the Auburn fan base goes up just a little bit every year. But it seems like the difference from last year to this year, at least early in the season, has been tremendous. I mean, that opening night game, it was packed. It was one of the more packed moments I've seen Plainsman Park ever. And some of the improvements and just kind of the culture around, folks filling up the parking deck, it's been really cool to see. What's your perspective on seeing kind of the support from the Auburn family grow more and more?
It's one of the most exciting things that I've witnessed being here at Auburn, Zach, because it didn't just happen overnight. And I think the timing's been great too, because it took years. We had to earn our way, after you come in at a tough time, even here after the first half year, it's like, trying to get people to believe. You just kind of had to keep your head down and stay the course. Yeah. And then seeing that grow, seeing the last 4 years of these season tickets finally being sold out when was told that you can't do that here. That's pretty neat. And to see it just keep growing. It feels even different this year. Seeing the facility stuff start to take shape and come online. I think my negative human nature thought was like, I want it all at once.
Yeah.
But I think the timing of the program building, the team, the roster, the coaching staff getting stronger in my time being here, it's kind of all come together at the right time where it works. So now that we can grow and start construction, I'm glad it's not happening all at once. I love these stages because now the Hall of Fame club's getting its due, and you absolutely get a great feel for that. Instead of everything just landing, instead of the waiter bringing you all 5 courses at one time, you're getting a course at a time, and I think you can appreciate it more. And I at one time I was like, man, I want it all at once, and now I love how things are being onboarded one at a time. I think it's going to make it enjoyable, and I think it gives us an opportunity of how awesome it feels currently, that we still can say the best is yet to come as it just continues to grow out with each phase. And I think each phase is going to be appreciated even more. And then all that does is put more expectation, more work that we have to do on the field to live up to it. But that's what we're here for, right? Is to aim for the highest star. I mean, that's exactly what we should be in the middle of, and we shouldn't be intimidated or concerned about that. We should just absolutely be continuing to try to find strategies and ways to keep growing and getting better.
We could do an hour and probably not touch on all the stuff that we'd like to ask you, like about the best book you've read in the last 8 months, or how much you remember about your very first press conference at Auburn. Silly media questions like that. But before we let you go, UConn this weekend. This is a quality opponent coming in here. This is an important series. Just kind of give us the layout, take us down the runway of this series against UConn this weekend.
Well, it starts with their leadership, and then Jim Penders has been there for a long time, and he has done an amazing job with that program. The last 2 years they were in the Gainesville Regional last year, and then 2 years ago they were in the Stanford Regional. We almost played them in Omaha. We ended up playing Stanford, but UConn took them to a third game. So just right there, the recent history of where they've ended up the last couple of postseasons gives you a ton of respect. Coach Nunemaker yesterday, as soon as we flipped the script from Stanford to start getting ready for UConn, was like, man, they're athletic. They get down the line. So I think they're going to pressure us with the bunt a little bit. I think they're going to pressure us with some athleticism. Those northern schools, they're inside a lot early. And so what that means to me is just how technical and how sound they are. So I think you'll notice that too if you watch them take infield, outfield. There's a slight military. They wear their uniforms well. You can tell there's some old school features of a John Wooden and things of that nature, and that's all Jim Penders that's been there leading that program. So they'll I would use the word sound, but a touch athletic. I think this is going to be an athletic team. Sometimes when we think teams from the north, we think big and strong and burly, if you will. I think this is going to be an athletic, regimented team that has enough experience. And they've been on the road, right? They've already been to the West Coast. They've already taken a couple of good trips. They've already played quality competition. So I don't think anything about coming to Auburn, Alabama is going to spook UConn, getting on the field. And we're looking for that consistency. Can we stay fearless like Weiss on the base pass, like us having at bats? Can we be relentless? And then can we be selfless and keep allowing this team to grow and build? And what I've been saying recently is like, man, we should stop talking about how tough this schedule is, because it's going to be a carbon copy every week. As we move forward, if we're playing the best schedule in our league, we're probably playing the best schedule in America. And UConn's another one of these teams coming in here that make that schedule that way.
Yeah. Coach, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate the few minutes that you gave us, and we'll see you in a few hours at your press conference.
Sounds great. War Eagle, guys. Thank you.
Hey, War Eagle, Coach. Thank you so much for your time. What a guy.
Love it. Love it.
All right. Today's show brought to you by our friends at mybookie.ag. It is the best place to wager on all of your sports action. And Brad, you know this.
Yes.
It's famous for the sound that it makes when you use promo code next round. What does it say? What sound does it make, Brad?
Bloop.
Bloop.
Bloop. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was nowhere near high pitched enough. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. You're too cool for the bloop sound. That's fine. That's okay. But yeah, be sure to use promo code next round. You'll get some extra money to bet with over at mybookie.ag. We'll move to football, but anything that Coach Thompson said in our conversation with him that stood out to you that we need to spend some extra time reflecting on or discussing before we move to football?
I love the fact that he is not giving the team room for excuses, because you can do that. And I think the guys want that. I think you're true elite players in any sport, and not just in sports, but it's true in the business world, in the medical field. Like the best of the best of the best they crave being pushed.
Mm-hmm.
And they crave someone really not letting them up. High achievers in any field do not want. It is human nature to want to make an excuse.
Right.
But high achievers in any field actually crave people in their lives who will come back and push them and go, no, that's not let's keep on going anyway, or let's don't use that as an excuse. And I really like that he's doing that. And I think it's a marker that he believes this team is capable of some pretty big things. I mean, we said that earlier in the year with Bruce. Bruce was tougher on this basketball team than he had been in the fall and early in the season in the past, because he thought they could be right there in the top of the SEC at the end, and they're going to be. So I think a coach sees the potential in his team, and he wants to push him to reach that potential. I think you see that out of Coach Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be excited about this lineup and the depth on the pitching rotation too.
Yeah.
So a lot to like for sure. I do wonder what his favorite book would have been if you would have actually asked that question. I think you should have. I think you should have.
If we had had more time, I would have done that. Was next on my list, and then I looked at the time and thought, well, we better ask about UConn.
Yeah.
So
we didn't have a ton of time earlier this week to watch Auburn's first practice of the spring. We got about 20 minutes or so, which is great. Thank you so much to the football program for allowing us even 20 minutes. That's great. The thing that stood out to me the most, Brad, and this seems to be a common opinion for everybody that was there, but the trenches, the offensive line, the defensive line, which were the two position groups I spent the most time watching, they seem larger than before, which I expected that on the offensive line. One, because you get Percy Lewis, and two, Xavier Miller, another offseason for him. I mean, he's
Connor Lewis, same thing. Yeah,
sure. 100%. Yeah, that absolutely. But man, the defensive line really surprised me. I can't go to I lay in bed thinking about it. Like, I don't understand how Malik Blockton is as big as he is as a true freshman. It doesn't make sense. Like, there's a mental block in my brain as far as comprehending. This guy looks like he's a junior going into, his third season, but man, he's already so developed. So I get the reliance. We assume they're going to rely on some of these younger guys going into the season, but they look good, Brad. They look good.
Yeah, they look like they're ready to be relied on. And I think that's why you go out and you target a different kind of player, and you push hard into recruiting battles, and you try to recruit guys that it's a functional plan. You're going to need younger players to be a part of the rotation, whether they're playing 60 snaps or 20. You need them to be, so you're not just throwing them out there for the sake of throwing them out there. You need them to be functional. And It's a really good thing to see that size. We talk all the time. You got to have quarterback play, and you really need you need next level talent on the offensive and defensive lines.
Sure.
And if they're passing the eye test before the pads go on day one of spring practice, then great.
Right.
So
Cam Coleman is Coleman is I keep saying it, and some Auburn people get it. Some Auburn people get mad at me when I say it, but we have never had somebody like Cam Coleman. We've never had this. A guy who's that big, that mobile, and just mentally where he needs to be. And also, I actually talked to somebody yesterday about this, Brad, close to him, where they're like, I don't think he really understands how good he is yet.
Yeah.
Which is great. So there's so much about Cam Coleman that excites me. And the fact that there was a report that I read that he caught a pass and the ball was knocked out of his hands. I think it was Keontae Scott that did it.
Yeah.
And then the next play, he went in and went over top of him and got his revenge or whatever. So it's just that kind of mindset of what you want in a receiver. And we haven't, I don't know if we've ever had that, but it's certainly been a minute for sure.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to the point of how does he respond to, does he want to be pushed? Does he want to be a kind of talent that Auburn has never had day one and just stay there? Sure. Or do you want to be truly one of the elite players? Let me ask you this now. Do you predict, I'm going to give you a couple of comparisons.
Yes.
26 catches, 534 yards, 5 touchdowns. Any idea off the top of your head what stat line that is? That's pretty vague.
26 catches, 500 some odd yards, and 5 touchdowns.
Yep. That's Seth Williams as a freshman at Auburn in 2018.
Got it. Okay.
Let me give you another line.
I would have never gotten that. So thank you for answering that.
All right. 56 catches, 963 yards, 8 touchdowns. 56, nearly 1,000, and 8 touchdowns.
That one of Darvin Adams' years?
No. That's A.J. Green at Georgia, his freshman season. Freshman season.
That'd be insane. That would be insane if he did that.
So I'm asking, is Cam Coleman as a freshman Is he a closer comparison to Seth Williams, or is he a closer comparison to AJ Green?
As far as production.
Yeah.
Okay, not like physical ability, but production is what we're
Well, I
talking
mean,
about.
but physical ability does play a hand in your production.
It does. But like, I think he's physically closer to AJ Green, but I think his production's going to be closer to the Seth Williams stat line you just read as a freshman.
Yeah,
as a freshman.
Okay, all right. Seth, by the way,
I tell you what, I'm sorry, Brad, to cut you off. If he has 900 yards as a freshman,
yeah.
I mean, it changes. If you told me that, I'd be like, okay, Auburn does go 9-3 or 10-2. If you told me that Auburn has a 900-yard receiver, I'm like, okay, all right, because that's just something we haven't had like consistently. We've had some glimpses of it, but
yeah. Well, probably the last time you had or got that close was 2019. Seth in his sophomore year, 59 for 830 and 8 touchdowns. So that's my question: is Cam Coleman in 2024? Is he closer to Seth Williams' freshman year? Because, I mean, I think objectively, most people expect that he's farther along his freshman year than Seth was.
He is.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So then is it a little closer to what you got from Seth his sophomore year? 59, 830, and 8. And what does Auburn do if they have a receiver with 59 catches for 830 yards and 8 scores?
I mean, that would it changes the offense because you know you're going to get yours in the running game because we feel good about the stable of running backs there. You feel like Rivaldo's going to get at least 400 or 500. I don't think that's crazy to say. And then can somebody else step up and get can somebody else get another 500? Can a Robert Lewis or a Caleb Burton or Coy Moore look really spry and explosive in the few minutes that we got that I noticed with him? So, like, can somebody else do that? And if you do that, you're talking about one of the better passing years that Auburn has ever had.
Yeah. Or can 3 guys get 250 apiece or 300 apiece or something like that? I mean,
you could almost argue that's better.
Right.
Yeah,
without question. So, what does Perry do when he comes? I mean, all these guys.
Totally.
It's happened before. We could run the numbers, not just AJ Green, but we could look at the South Carolina guy. We could look at Julio Jones. There are guys who have had freshman seasons at
South Carolina guy.
Yeah.
Who's the South Carolina guy?
Oh, I forget his name. Thank you very much. You just put me right on the spot.
Alshon Jeffrey? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yes.
Guy wanted to fight everybody.
Thank you.
Sure.
Gosh. It's okay. You know what? I need to be pushed. I don't need to I don't need to use an excuse.
Sorry, I just called you out on that.
Golly bum.
I'm so sorry. Well, I was like, who is he talking about?
Yeah. I was
like Debo? Like, who are we talking about?
Trying to be so slick about it too. Like, oh yeah, and and just kind of roll past it. South Carolina guy.
Why'd you even list them then?
Because I think about those guys. I think Julio Jones, Alshon
larger
Jeffrey,
guy,
and AJ Green, like that trio at about the same time, late 2000s, early 2010s in this league. Those were kind of the 3 that their freshman year made a big impact. They announced their presence. And if we're talking about Cam Coleman in a similar vein, then it's not nuts to expect similar production this year.
Brad, speaking of nuts.
Yeah, thank you so much. I got to talk about Manscaped. Right now, if you use our promo code VICE, oh, that's great. You'll get 20% off and free shipping. And one more day until the month of March. Now you got to take advantage of the Lawnmower 5.0. It is the 5th generation lawnmower from Manscaped. It is your grooming sidekick with those 2 skin-safe blade heads. The standard one, if you want to take a little off the top, and then the foil blade to go smooth wherever you want. Plus, if you get the bundle, if you get the Performance Package 5.0, speaking of bundles, you're going to get 2 free gifts in addition to everything else. Boxers 2.0, Shed 2.0, toiletry bag, New Year's resolutions. Now that we're at the end of February, man, those things come and go. But, a well-groomed you is here to stay thanks to Manscaped. Again, promo code VICE. Got to use that promo code VICE. You'll get free shipping and 20% off everything that you order at manscaped.com. Go nuts.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. So tomorrow's show, we'll recap everything that Hugh Freeze and some of the players say, what they talked about in the press conference, but I imagine it'll be pretty straightforward. I imagine I'll be asked a lot of questions about the quarterback situation. Imagine, there'll be a bunch of stuff. So we'll discuss all that on tomorrow's edition of Village Vice. Who's the guy that let's single out one guy, Brad, that you're excited to see next practice window or to hear more about over the next few weeks?
DeMarcus Riddick. I think that he is a really versatile player, and I'm curious to see where he's lined up, where he's going to be used, and how much he develops in the spring. How much are we talking about DeMarcus Riddick by the time A-Day rolls around and after A-Day?
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
How about you?
I will go with the transfer receiver, Robert Lewis. Looked fast, had some burners, and that was kind of a question. Can his speed from the Georgia State level of football translate to the SEC? It looks like it did. Looks like he moves very well. Can he just kind of put it all together? And how do they use him? It's going to be more of a slot guy. It's going to be more outside. We'll see. But yeah, Robert Lewis is a guy that I think is an important part of this team, and not even necessarily. He doesn't need 600 yards, but can he have that impact? Can he score a few touchdowns? Can he make the defense respect him as a potential deep threat, or at least, a possession guy, however they choose to use him? I've heard mixed things. So Robert Lewis is a guy that I'm kind of zoning in on.
Auburn needs guys to go from the 20 to the 20. Like you need guys to be able to get you some chunk plays, middle of the field. If you want to go Coleman and Fairweather in the red zone and some of the others, bigger guys there, you need some explosiveness between the 20s. So I like that pick too.
Yep. Brad, I think that about does it for today's show.
It does. Thanks again to Coach Butch Thompson for joining us on the show. Thank you for watching. Remember, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.